Who doesn't like going to a family-friendly trip to the zoo? Having some of the best core memories of seeing a giraffe or a penguin for the first time on a grade school field trip is some of the things I would not forget. And I'm pretty sure that goes alongside with anyone who's been to the zoo for a couple times or even the first time seeing any animals that are exotic to them. However, everything seems fine when just going around browsing, seeing some of the animals in the sites with churro in your right hand and the cotton candy in your other one. But don't you ever wonder how it'd feel on the other side of the glass or the fence? Zoos have been around for a very long time. Actually, like a long time. It dates back to ancient Egypt, where there'd be pharaohs and kings that would hold animals to showcase their wealth and their class of wealth. Some would hold hippos, some would hold large cats, and back then cats were seen as gods. So, cat lady back then was a god lady, and compared to now. But there was a zoo that was open to the public, or the first zoo that was open to the public was during the industrial age of our civilization. It was actually called the Vienna Zoo, and that zoo has been open for 260 plus years and maintained for that long. So it's been up here for quite a while, and actually one of the famous zoos that we've had throughout history. But a quote from Anthony Douglas Williams once said that animals should not require the permission to live on Earth. Animals were given the right to be here longer than we've arrived. Now, that's pretty heavy. Not all zoos are built the same. Some are placed in areas that are well funded, and some are unfortunately not placed in areas that are well suited for exotic animals. For example, there's some zoos that are in areas that are in high peak of conflict, and that's causing all the money and funding to go to that whole area instead of having to fund other small things, including zoos. And that will cause like a lot of stress and a lot of bad environment for the animals in captivity. Animals in captivity usually suffer from mental illnesses like stress or low dieting because of the stress. For example, monkeys or different primates that are held in zoos start to peel off or poke out hairs from their body and from other bodies too. So if you were to see an animal that is lacking of hair, the cause of that is probably because they are stressed, and it's a way for them to cope for their boredom. Another way for them to cope for their boredom would be like self-biting and self-harm, and that would be around other animals to cause a row, like a ruckus, so they can have something to compensate for the boredom, and that would be to inflict harm to each other. Another example would be for our elephants. Elephants are quite large animals, so they need something to compensate for that heftiness of themselves. So they need a large area, they need a large diet, and they need a large amount of exercise. And because of some of the captivities some of the places that they're being held at lack some of these, they tend to die much younger or much faster than they would for their natural life expectancy. So the lack of exercise and dieting problems because of the stress levels cause them to pass away much earlier than needed. Although zoos have saved some of our animals, like the American condor, who, because it's in 2019, has gotten 300 plus more of their population, and causing them to not be in the red zone of extinction. That's the only thing that they've been known for. Breeding in captivity causes a lot of stuff negatively towards animals that need the sense of fight or flight thing once they're released to the wild. For example, like tigers or other predators that are bred in captivity lose that development of natural behavior because they're given everything to them. Everything's handed to them, like their food. They're very groomed, so they're waiting for that. So the development of behavior diminishes over time, and once they're set into the wild, they cannot defend for themselves, and they end up losing the fight. A thing that we can do to stop the suffering would be to have peaceful protests around the zoos or around aquariums. For example, in SeaWorld or SeaWorld, they'd have like peaceful protesters around the area protesting for the release of some of the animals or for most of the animals that are in there in captivity. Instead of that, they could be transferred to research facilities where they can be in bigger areas and bigger places where they can exercise freely, swim freely, or giving proper feeding and health benefits, and then release to the wild by slowly giving them giving back their natural behavior to be finally released to the wild. Another thing that we can do is that we can vote against Project Z. That's in our voting polls now. And next time you go to the zoo, not to be on the negative side of anything, but kind of things I'm saying now, kind of notice the comparisons when you go see an animal or when you see a molting bird out there. Thank you for having me.